I want to welcome him to the program. Somebody we've had as a guest before, but he's one of my favorite guys in the United States Senate, maybe well beyond that, honestly. He's written an incredible book that everybody ought to go out and buy. I'm about halfway through it, and it is a moving memoir. It's called America, A Redemption Story. Senator Tim Scott.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back. Frankly, it's good to be in the studio.
Yeah, right? I mean, this is
awesome.
Much better than the Zoom, the crackly Zoom that we ended up.
We're a semi-professional operation.
This is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. There is life after the Senate. This is good to see.
Yes.
Yes.
And it is a bit of a redemption story as well.
Certainly far more relaxed and probably, hopefully, more lucrative, I hope.
Well,
I'm thinking about that.
We're working on that.
Yes,
We're working on that. But listen, let's start with your book. I've known you for a while, known your story for a while. You're one of the most genuine people I know. But when I started reading through this book, it struck me as it had to have been an incredibly emotional experience to put these words on paper.
Yeah, Josh, there's no doubt. I struggled with a lot of the book, to be honest with you. To be that transparent and vulnerable is not necessarily the most natural place to find myself, but I thought it was important because so much of our country right now is struggling over an identity crisis, it feels like. Yeah. The polarization, it's just, part of it is manufactured. I think the national media has learned very quickly that you can monetize conflict. Polarization helps that profit margin a lot, I think. But in the other lane, there's this whole question about, do we actually do better together? Mm-hmm. And my life story is, in fact, the answer is emphatically yes, that I was blessed by a guy named Dr. Monty S. Harrington, who was an orthodontist. And when I was in high school, guys, I had two front teeth that didn't like each other. And it was quite unattractive and almost offensive when I looked in the mirror. You know what I'm saying? It's like one tooth was going to the left, the other tooth was going to the right. And I was like, I want to ask her out, but my nickname was Teat. My friends were not smart, so they didn't know teeth was the actual word. They just called me T-E-E-T.
Not many people have fond memories of their orthodontist. So I'm very excited for where this goes.
What do they say? You can eat a corn on the cob through a picket fence?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yes, that's exactly right. Yes. And so literally this guy named Dr. Harrington shows up, and I walk about a mile and a half to his office. I'm 19 years old. I'm a sophomore in college. We could never afford braces. I would never have asked my mother for that kind of money. And I walk into this guy's office, and he just looks at me and says, "Wow,
oh man,
I can help you." And I was like, "I bet you." With the air blowing through my teeth, I bet you can. And literally, he has mercy on me. But he asked me a very important question. He says, "How much can you afford? Because whatever your answer is, you better pay it." Huh. And no insurance, just mercy.
Wow.
I said, $40 a month. He said, pay it. And he went to work immediately.
Wow.
And the guy happened to be a white guy. And I say that because in the current environment, we hear so much about how one side are a bunch of racists, the other sides are a bunch of victims, one side are oppressors. Nothing is further from the truth in America. The truth is, this is 1984.
Right.
And people of good conscience who they just do. He didn't treat me like I was some charity case. He didn't disrespect me or didn't make me wait longer. I didn't get the last bit of braces. He treated me with tremendous respect. Mm-hmm. And I walked into his office a second time, my shoulders back, my head held high, because he treated me like an individual that had value.
Yeah.
I wish our country, especially those who don't believe in our country, would take the time to look around and tell the real story, both sides of the ledger.
Yeah. Yeah, oh man, that's an incredibly powerful story. You start with a foreword and into your first chapter talking about your dad and early lessons that you learned there, and your parents' marriage, how that affected you, his background.
Yes.
That's got to be tough.
I don't talk about my father publicly a lot because we didn't have a good relationship, and growing up it was painful and miserable in so many ways. And when they got divorced, I remember sitting on the side of the couch, almost like literally on the side of the couch, and thinking to myself, what can I give up to keep my family together? If I gave up, am I asking for too much for Christmas, or is it my birthday presents?
Just the roughest experience a child could ever have.
Terrible. And moving back into my grandparents' house from a military base into a little house with just 700 square feet, my grandparents in one room, my mother, my brother, and I would share a room and a bed for a few years, and my esteem, I bet, dropped 70%.
Yeah.
My view of the world was crushed. My hero was away, and I would not live with him for the rest of my life.
Right.
That had a real negative impact on my way of seeing the country and the world and myself. And
Right.
I became angry and disillusioned, and I started drifting in the wrong direction. One of the reasons why I nearly failed out of high school as a freshman, when you fail Spanish and English in the freshman year, no one calls you bilingual, okay? They don't. They just call you biignorant because you can't speak any language. And if you ever wonder if God has a sense of humor, I failed civics.
Oh, that is good.
The study of politics. I mean,
That's good.
My goodness gracious. So I know God has a sense of humor. I know that the humor is good for the soul. But I also know that at that point in my life, I did not realize the amazing birthright of American citizenship that I was given. And one of the reasons why the book is called America, A Redemption Story, is because in this country, that second chance that I received is only available in countries like this. And there aren't many of us.
Right.
I think we're the only one like this. That my story ends up in the United States Senate is nearly an impossibility. It's not even a dream you would have as a kid. You might maybe dream of becoming a city council member if you're lucky, if you like politics.
Right.
Mayor if you're going to be punished by God. But literally, or school board, even worse. But literally, to find myself as a United States Senator in the place where the Civil War started in Charleston, South Carolina, having won a congressional seat against Strom Thurmond's son, to ask ourselves, is America a racist country?
Right.
The American people in the Deep South had the greatest evolution of the Southern heart that allowed them to judge me based on the content of my character and not the color of my skin. So for me to come to any other conclusion would be outside of my mind, which is politically irrational.
You're right.
Just not possible. And so what I hope people learn or discern from reading the book, I hope they enjoy the stories, but I hope they have confidence in the American dream, and I hope they have confidence in their fellow Americans. There are a few bad people, 9 or 10 of them around the country. They move around a lot, it seems like.
Yeah.
But the truth is, for the most part, most people will give you the shirt off your back.
Yeah.
If they're back, if you ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely consider you a happy warrior,
Yes.
And the message of this book, I think, is a positive one. Obviously, I'm curious in meeting with voters in this moment in politics, which is an angry moment.
Yes.
How do you reconcile those two things? And in those conversations, when people are angry or disillusioned or lacking hope, how do you inspire them with this personal story that you have here in this book to see a future for a redemption for America?
Well, one of the things I think is so important as I chronicle in the book is that I am a happy warrior. I believe that the best is yet to come. I'm an optimistic person, but if you run afoul of my mama, I'm going to take you out. I mean, and so let's just not forget that I
don't confuse it for softness.
Exactly. The Bible tells me that humility is harnessed power. So my responsibility is to be a humble person, hopefully. So I like to harness the power I have, but there are times when you have to let it out. One of the ways I see that happening in my life is recently at a banking committee hearing where Janet Yellen, Secretary of the Treasury, says to me, of all people, that sometimes it's better for African-American poor women to have abortions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I was stunned.
It's
and so I
stunning.
asked her to explain herself, and she repeated what she said. She kind of doubled down on it. And I said, you know what? I was raised by a single mother in poverty, and I thank God Almighty that she didn't have an abortion. And frankly, I'm offended by the fact that you think that the best predicament for a young, poor African-American woman is to have an abortion in order to increase our labor force participation rate.
and
That is unbelievable.
She's the Treasury
Treasury Secretary.
Talk about being out of your lane.
That is
I mean, think
mission
about that.
to creep.
Exactly. Yes. Now we know what the definition of creep is. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? And so I'm finding myself in this hearing, stunned by the stupidity of really smart people.
Oh man.
Or think when I have 4 presidents or CEOs of the biggest banks in the country.
Oh, I love I know where you're going with this.
And I asked a question about the Georgia law, voting law, that they had all signed. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and one other. I said, what were you all opposed to? Explain to me a part of the law that you disagree with. And they were like, and for those of you who can't see my face, they said nothing for like 90 seconds, and I did not interrupt their nothing. Sometimes you have to be happy, and sometimes you have to be a warrior.
Yeah.
Other times you can be a happy warrior.
Right.
But when it's time to be a warrior, I will go to fight for this country and for the American dream, because if we don't preserve it, there's no other hope in a country on earth. We are the city on the hill. We are the beacon in the midst of the storm. And if we lose our compass, we lose our way, there's no help coming. And so I think that you can't just be happy. Sometimes you have to just be the warrior on behalf of the things you believe in and the people you'll defend.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and you've lived a life, right? You have the credibility to talk about this. I mean, right off the top, you talk about your dad driving in the car.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And him becoming emotional, trying to tell you about how terrifying it was to drive out of town.
Absolutely. You think back to my grandfather's life, born in 1921 in a very small rural southern town called Sally. And just the humiliation and the disrespect that came with ordinary daily life for a man who was afraid of driving through small towns, because in those days pulling a black man over was no big deal, and being beaten was not against the law. To have him sitting in that car sharing the story of his life, sharing the story of his fear and experience, and seeing the indignity on his face, seeing the humiliation on his face, but yet hearing him say words that should not have been the final part of that chapter, so to speak. Don't get bitter. Never be anybody's victim. Mm-hmm. You can be a victim or you can be victorious. You can't be both. I refuse to be a victim. And he taught me that as an early kid, especially as a kid. And one of the reasons why, Josh, and I think about this, one of the reasons why that was such an important story is because as a kid growing up in a single parent household, I didn't think about that literally till now. I think he knew almost unconsciously that I would face more struggle. Mm-hmm. I'd have more challenges. I'd have more questions about who I am and what I can do. And in his own small way, wow, this is so awesome to think this through with you. He was saying, not an option.
Yeah. If I could do this, you can do
absolutely. If I could survive 1921 in Sally, South Carolina as a black man, where picking cotton was my existence as a young kid, and my grandson gets to pick a seat in Congress.
Yeah.
If that's the America that is going to be, I'm going to make sure that I preserve the right to tell you to shut up, son. Stay in your lane, dude.
Yeah.
And work hard and get lucky.
Next time you think about feeling sorry for yourself, right?
Remember, you are to swear.
Yeah.
Well, none of that can be true, as I recall. The Washington Post did a long fact check of your life, your privileged life, sort of questioning this whole backstory and everything that you've overcome. Yeah. I'm curious, like, when you read that, how did you react?
Rage.
Yeah.
You would have said, I thought that dude was a happy warrior. He was not a happy warrior. I was, the word starts with a P and ends in a D. It's in the middle of it. So I was so incensed, because I don't mind you stabbing me in the chest or in the back, but when you start going after my family. You've crossed a line that you will not cross twice.
Well, so I have a theory about this, and I think for the liberal media and this sort of new academic world of everything is a critical theory, whether it's critical race theory or everything, people are oppressors or the oppressed, they need those stories to be impossible.
Absolutely.
They need your story to be absolutely impossible.
100%. I think one of the most dangerous positions on earth today, or at least in America, is a conservative who happens to be black, because the caricature that they make of you on MSNBC or some of these very liberal elite stations is so damaging to the kid who wants to grow up and think for themselves. They want indoctrination to be complete before you have a chance to come to the conclusion, I'm a conservative, and I'm proud to be a conservative. What they want is antithetical to what we need as a nation.
Because they only have the answers if your life is out of your control.
Exactly. Well, the concept of centralized control that creates a caste system is worse for the people living in marginalized communities. The last place you want to be in a caste system is at the bottom. And you get frozen there in their approach to centralized control. Why bother to think for yourself if I'm going to give you just enough to live on your own, but never enough to succeed on your own?
Right.
I believe that America is about winners and losers. Sometimes I've lost, but it's led to my greatest gains. There has to be the ability to lose for there to be the opportunity to win. And what they're trying to do is fix the game and eliminate one major part of it. That's impossible. Those who come to that conclusion are literally selling their kids or their grandkids or their communities a bill of goods that will never happen.
Yeah.
Totally. One of the most remarkable traits about you, and I think it's rooted in your faith, but you talk about it throughout the book, is this grace and being able to forgive.
Yes.
Right? And come the experiences that you have been a part of that, irritate you, anger you, even how you dealt with your father, and knowing his background as a black Vietnam vet.
Helped a lot.
And the PTSD and everything that was associated with that you're able to sort of condense all of that and find grace and forgiveness is really an amazing thing.
Well, thank you. I will say it took me a long time to get there, a couple of decades, but the truth is that I've learned as I've grown older and looking back at my own life and seeing how messy my life is, that we ought to give the same deference to others that we want to give to ourselves or that we want to expect for ourselves. But the truth is that a life has two sides of the ledger. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. And if I am the recipient of the bad part of your ledger, I'm going to judge you harshly. And I did it with my father for a long time. I just literally saw his inconsistency or his inabilities as such a negative thing that weighed on my shoulders that I just couldn't see him in the same light of forgiveness. Right. And unmerited favor is grace. And so once I heard his story, writing the book, it was the first time I heard.
Is that right?
It was the first time I ever heard of his altercation and 5 against 2 and being chased and having to fight for his life and cutting a guy. I hadn't heard that before because he never talked about that era of his life. And as he said to me then, was the anger and the fear that he poured stuff on top of literally changed his view of the world. He became angry, and the place that the anger was taken out on was at home. And the good news is he never hit me. There was lots of, or my family that I know of, just verbal abuse and the challenges and the negativity wore thin very quickly, 6 or 7 years, and probably longer than I know. But the truth is that even my father is a good man today in a way that I did not understand before. And if we judge people on their worst day, we're probably doing ourselves a disservice.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, it's a hell of a perspective to have as somebody who's in the middle of the United States Senate at this particular moment in time, right? Because judgment seems to be basically surrounding you and your work on a daily basis.
It's guilty until proven innocent. And we're seeing that whoever the other side is, they have determined that you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that's part of the bigotry of the left today, in my opinion. Not only does it have to do with the fact that I'm a conservative Republican who happens to be black, but whenever you don't fit into their paradigm, whenever you don't fit into one of their little categories, the tribal nature of America isn't true. The tribal nature of the left is true. They literally have a category for everyone. And if you don't fit into your category and stay in your category, then promotion doesn't come. I find that to be offensive as an American because America is all about you, the individual, is the greatest minority in the country. So setting you free is our goal. Not doing that is the antithesis of what it means to be an American. And one of the reasons that we struggled early in our history was because of our original sin of slavery. So we fought a civil war where 4% of American men died, 600,000 people died over the issue of captivity and over the issue of freedom. Thank God we had that altercation that set us free and redeemed us in part from our original sin. But if we don't tell that part of the story that redemption did come, we miss the very point of what it means to be an American. It doesn't mean being perfect. It means having the opportunity to make up for what goes wrong in your life or in your country. That's a good thing.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a perspective that is just so welcomed, because there's so much negativity, so much of it rooted in identity,
Yes.
and pushed by the left exclusively, that you can or cannot succeed based on where you come from and what you look like, and you need us to help you out.
And the funny thing is, I'm not sure, have we ever had an African American president? I can't remember. Or a vice president, or chief of staff of the military. American Express, the former CEO, Ken Scott. Give me a second.
It's there somewhere.
Okay, so the Secretary of Defense.
Right.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a four-star general, first four-star general in the history of the Marines, African American?
Yeah, weird, right?
Huh.
This success must be an aberration.
Exactly. There's just thousands of them, unfortunately. And I know that there are no black billionaires. So, yes, can we do better? Of course we can. Are we doing better? Duh. That's spelled D-U-H, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Literally, we should celebrate the entire ledger. And if we don't, we are confining some people in this country to a prism of the view of the world being too narrow. Mm-hmm. I think poor kids that are growing up like I did when I was a poor kid 50 years ago, see what it feels like, they have more opportunities today than I had then. They're likely twice as smart, if not 4 times smart. Comparatively to you, they're just probably as smart. Comparatively to me, they're a lot smarter. I failed out of high school as a freshman.
I can disabuse you very much smarter than I am.
So literally, and I'm taking too long on this point, and I realize that, but the truth is that America, a story of redemption, is about a second chance. I got one academically. A guy who didn't have to help me afford braces. My mentors, both black and white, saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. I've lost a political race. I had a slow start in business. But at the same time, I was able to buy my mom a house because of the business success that I had, not because of my football prowess, which I thought I was going to be able to, but actually everybody else disagreed with me. I'm not sure why. But the fact that when you lose a race and you're out of politics for a little while, it's a painful, miserable experience. I got a second chance. The voters said, let's give him a second chance.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you live the life I've lived and not A, turn out to be an optimist, B, defend America with all your might, and C, believe in the power of the individual.
Yeah, well, gosh, it's really well said. I think what's different about you, which you're going to find amazing when you hear this, but not only do you sort of keep striving forward and fulfill dreams that you couldn't have even fathomed when you were a child, but you've also served as a mentor to literally hundreds of people like you, from backgrounds like you, young black men and women who have conservative views that wanted to become a part of the process and were told forever that they couldn't.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I think we've had 5 or 6 different candidates on this show. To a person, everyone says, "Oh, Tim Scott? You're talking about Tim Scott?
Wow.
Yeah, he's the guy that let us know we could do this."
That's
I mean,
amazing.
that's amazing, right?
That's a blessing from God. Truly is. And it humbles me. I will say that I thank God for Jack Kemp, who taught me that being a bleeding heart, conservative was cool. Mm-hmm. I thank God for someone like Jack Kemp who literally infused or embedded in my political DNA from a distance, this notion that you could be a happy warrior, or you could just be happy, or you could be a warrior. I thank God for the Ronald Reagan Revolution. You got to remember, when I went in high school, Carter was president. Yeah. Maybe that's why I failed 4 subjects my freshman year. I was like, what in the world is inflation? It's killing us, But Reagan comes along, and the Reagan Revolution happens as I'm coming of age, and I start believing that all things are possible, and then I become a Christian, and I understand all things are possible. And then I start experiencing the goodness of Americans who believed in me, not because of my color of my skin, but I was literally a down and out kid. They saw potential, and they helped bring me up. Mm-hmm. If that can happen for me,
yeah,
and it's happening for millions of people across this country, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your gender, no matter your background, Why aren't we celebrating that? Why aren't we spending more time talking about the greatness of the American dream to set captives free? And sometimes the place of captivity is your own imagination. And if you are captive in your own imagination, there's no nation on earth that can set you free.
Ugh.
But if you could find freedom in your imagination, there's no nation on earth that can hold you back. Maybe that's why 9 million people from Africa are trying to get to America to call it home.
Yeah.
It's not because we're a racist country. It's because we are the land of opportunity. And I get a little excited, I like to preach. Hallelujah.
No, I love it.
But it's just what I believe, and it's what I've experienced. And factually, it leads us to the same conclusion. That the reason why we are the most compassionate country on earth, with more immigrants calling America home, is because the land of opportunity is something you yearn for all across this world. That's why we have to fix our back door of immigration and improve our front door. It's why we have to say to poor kids in poor zip codes that educational choice is for you. It's why we have to say that lowering taxes so that entrepreneurs start in the poorest neighborhoods in rural America is incredibly important.
Oh man, it's so well said. You're the absolute best at painting that picture. One of the pictures you painted, however, took me aback a little bit. You're a Cowboys fan.
I apologize to a Minnesota fan, Vikings fan, up front and personal. It's hurtful.
You may have a colleague that's responsible for the success of the 90s for the Cowboys, and it came at my expense in Herschel Walker.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that 13. Oh, let us stop and just pray. Lord, thank you for the Herschel Walker trade that led to 2 Super Bowls. No doubt, God, I know that we don't have to pray about those things that have already happened, but I just want to once again say thank you for 13 players and the Minnesota Vikings. May they be blessed in a generation that I'm not a part of. Amen.
He doesn't even take one, but now he's going to take 2 shots in my head with this thing because he's got the Drew Pearson catch.
Oh, man. In my book, literally, in my book, America Redemption Story, I'm standing outside on one of the pages crying my eyes out because the Vikings are about to beat us.
Yeah.
And then the miracle catch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I grew up with this. This is something my dad talked about.
Will you tell them what happens? I can't remember.
Let's not get into it. I still think he pushed off.
I'm not saying what happened. I'm just saying how it happened. Actually, you're saying how it happened. I'm saying what happened. Yeah.
Well, whatever it was, it cursed the Vikings as they haven't been back to the Super Bowl since.
I think you guys had 4 shots at winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. No, you're going to go there, too.
No, I'm just saying that you guys were a very good team. One of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, besides Roger Staubach, is Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
I mean, Fran was the great scrambler. This guy wasn't the tallest quarterback, but he was accurate on the run, and he pierced more darkness on the football field than the law allows. And I hated watching him scramble because I was like, oh my God, get him. And then we didn't. I threw my football down. I walked outside and I said, it's over.
I have similar feelings once every about 5-6 years with the Vikings in my entire 43 years on this planet. So I can identify, but I can't identify with actually coming down with the ball and going to the Super Bowl and all that. So, thank you for that little vignette.
Sorry.
Really appreciate that.
I was trying to sell the book. There's that part in the book of the Hail Mary and Roger Staubach, and he may be listening to your show, and I'm sure he's a fan of the show, and so I wanted Roger to know. God bless you, Roger. Thank you very much.
Grace once again.
Yeah. Unmerited favor. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I better stop.
So, all right. So, first of all, everybody's got to go out and buy this book. It will uplift your view of America. It will give you confidence that we're heading in the right place. Before I let you out of here, I got to get some thoughts on the election that's coming up. You yourself are doing a ton of good work to try to get more Senate Republican colleagues across this country.
Thank you. I will say that we need a majority. There's no doubt that elections have consequences, and whether you're thinking about Herschel Walker in Georgia, Ted Budd in North Carolina, Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, J.D. Vance in Ohio, there's no doubt that Adam Laxalt in Nevada. We have really strong Tiffany Smiley in Washington State, I think has a real legitimate shot. We have to win.
Yeah.
And we have to win the majority. The American people deserve better governing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And you actually put your money where your mouth is. This is not every senator does this. In fact, practically nobody does. But I was watching, I'm like always in politics, right?
Yes.
So I watch the buys as they come in, right? We have an alert system when they come in, when anybody places a buy anywhere in the country for or against any candidate. And I just keep seeing these Tim Scott PAC buys coming up in one place or another, trying to help our folks out.
I think we have to win. Listen, the American dream is alive. It is healthy, but it needs a little push in the right direction. The Biden administration has decimated hopes and dreams around the country in a way that is going to be measured over a decade, I'm afraid. Think about the inflationary effect. 9.1 last month is down to 8.7. This month down to 8.7.
Yeah, right.
It was 2% under President Trump. So we should not be celebrating a 0.4 of a drop, although I will say that the reason for the drop is driven by the economy slowing down. The economy slows down, gas prices drop because demand drops. What you really want is the inflationary effects to drop because supply goes up, which would mean energy production here at home. But the president is, I guess, inconsistent with reality and wants to figure out which dictator to go to next.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Was it Russia? No, not Russia. Iran? No, Saudi Arabia. I don't know what he's doing. But
we can get the batteries from China too. Don't forget that.
Yes.
They had good work on that last week.
Yes, let's make sure that Made in China 2025 becomes a reality.
Yeah.
I mean, why not do it at home?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's so frustrating. One of the reasons why I think the story of America is more important today than it has been in a very long time, because the story is that we're doing really well. But in order for us to continue in the right direction, we're going to have to win elections. We're going to have to win the House back and bring oversight over many facets of the federal government. And at the same time, we need to win the Senate back so that we, the human resource department for the country, with all the appointments that we do, that we get more conservative, more centrist people coming before our committees, or we should just say no. And we'd have the power to say no if we had a majority. Really important time in American history.
Super important for everything from the judicial branch to every single confirmable position in the federal government. It brings some accountability with it.
And we desperately need it. You can look at just this past Monday to see the importance of accountability and oversight. I think the fact of the matter is, when you see something so unprecedented as that raid was, that you have to speak out on behalf of justice. Mm-hmm. And you should think of Lady Justice with a blindfold and apply justice equally, not to your friends,
right,
but to the American people, no matter their previous office, no matter their plight. We need to be consistent with the application of justice in this country if we are, in fact, to continue seeing the American dream expand and opportunities expand, or frankly, even explode in the right direction.
Right.
I wish I could have Tim Scott here for like 4 hours.
I know.
Because the trajectory of my week.
I feel better about my day.
I feel better about everything.
Yeah.
Right? I do. It's America, a Redemption Story by Senator Tim Scott. Senator, if people want to follow along on your political work that you're up to, is there a website or something?
Yeah, you can go to votetimscott.com to keep up with who we are, what we're doing, or timscottbooks.com to make a purchase order today.
Yes.
Today.
Right. Today.
I said today.
I love that. Senator Scott, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. God bless y'all.